hacking into Pentagon and NASA systems.
40 million credit card and debit numbers stolen.
Officers are on the scene.
Largest identity theft case ever.
Largest data breach in U.S. history.
That affected millions of people.
The story begins in 1989, in a quiet suburb of South Florida. Jonathan James was born into an ordinary family. His father was a computer programmer, and the family owned a modest home computer. While other kids his age were outside riding bikes or playing video games, Jonathan was glued to the screen. At first, he played games, but it wasn't long before he started asking deeper questions. How does the computer work? How is software made? Can it be broken into? He became fascinated with programming, especially the C language, and operating systems like Unix, forerunner of modern-day Linux and Mac OS. By his early teens, he was teaching himself how to code by reading books, digging into open-source projects, and chatting in online forums with other hackers. He wasn't just curious, he was gifted and obsessed. At home, Jonathan's obsession with computers caused tension. He once uninstalled Windows from the family PC and replaced it with Linux just because he wanted to try something new. No one asked him to do it, and no one could stop him. When his parents tried to limit his screen time, he found ways to bypass their restrictions. At one point, they even took away his computer entirely. Jonathan responded by running away from home and refusing to return until they gave it back. Eventually, they did. And that's when Jonathan started going deeper, exploring not just how computers work, but how to break into them. In the summer of 1999, Jonathan was just 15 years old. While most teens were spending their summer at the mall or playing video games, he decided to challenge himself by hacking NASA. Specifically, he targeted the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. He exploited vulnerabilities and gained access to 13 NASA computers, an astonishing breach for anyone, let alone a teenager. And this time, he didn't just peek around. He downloaded software worth $1.7 million. The software was responsible for managing the temperature and humidity control systems aboard the International Space Station. Although Jonathan never took control of the ISS, downloading the source code was enough to cause alarm. NASA shut down their systems for 3 weeks to investigate and secure the breach, an operation that cost them roughly $41,000. Later, Jonathan said in an interview, "The code was garbage. It wasn't worth anything close to $1.7 million. I only downloaded it to study C programming. What better way to learn than reading software built by NASA?" To him, it was educational. To the government, it was a serious breach of national security. Just a few months later, in late 1999, Jonathan went a step further. He hacked into the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, a division of the Pentagon responsible for monitoring nuclear, chemical, and biological threats. He installed a backdoor and intercepted over 3,000 sensitive internal messages, including usernames and passwords from employees, at least 10 of whom had access to classified military systems. Jonathan saw this as another challenge, a puzzle to solve. He didn't delete files. He didn't install malware. He didn't sell data. He was exploring. But law enforcement saw something very different, a growing national threat. In January 2000, Jonathan's world changed. Just weeks after his 16th birthday, the FBI raided his family home. They seized 5 computers, CDs, his Palm Pilot hand, even his Star Trek books. Jonathan was interrogated and confessed to everything. He cooperated fully and promised to stop hacking. For 3 months, he heard nothing. Then the charges came. Jonathan James became the youngest person ever convicted under U.S. cybercrime laws. If he were an adult, he could have faced up to 10 years in prison. Because he was a minor, the court sentenced him to 6 months house arrest, mandatory letters of apology to NASA and the Department of Defense, no access to computers in his free time, but later. After testing positive for drug use, a violation of probation, he was sent to juvenile detention for another 6 months. His father would later say that the experience changed him forever. He returned home, different, quiet, disconnected. The fire in him had dimmed. Meanwhile, another hacker named Albert Gonzalez was making headlines. Like Jonathan, he had hacked NASA at 14. But unlike Jonathan, he went on to create one of the largest cybercrime operations in history. He worked with a hacker ring that stole over 180 million credit and debit card numbers, hitting companies like TJ Maxx, Barnes & Noble, and OfficeMax. Gonzalez even became a Secret Service informant, helping the government catch other hackers while secretly continuing his crimes. Among his associates was someone known only by the initials JJ. In 2008, the Secret Service raided Jonathan's home once more, suspecting he might be the mysterious JJ linked to Gonzalez's crew. Jonathan denied any involvement. He hadn't hacked in years. He had no job, no college degree, and had been living quietly with his brother after his mother passed away from cancer. But the pressure weighed heavily. He believed the government was setting him up as a scapegoat, a sacrificial lamb for the public. He found a suicide note he had written years before, and this time he updated it. On May 18, 2008, just 2 weeks after the raid, Jonathan James died by suicide. He was 24 years old. In his final note, he wrote, "I have no faith in the justice system. Perhaps my actions today in this letter will send a stronger message to the public. Either way, I've lost control of the situation. This is the only way I can regain it. I die free." He had not been charged, tried, or sentenced. But in his mind, the outcome was inevitable. In 2010, Albert Gonzalez was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Christopher Scott, another associate, got 7 years. The true identity of JJ turned out to be Stephen Watt, not Jonathan. Jonathan James was never officially tied to the TJX case. Jonathan James wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was a curious, brilliant kid who wanted to understand how things worked. When he found security holes, he often told system admins how to fix them. But instead of guiding that talent, instead of mentoring him, the system punished him hard. We'll never know what Jonathan could have become. A security expert? A tech entrepreneur? A brilliant coder? What we do know is this: sometimes the way we treat genius can destroy it. If you found Jonathan's story powerful, consider sharing this video. It's time we have more conversations about how we deal with young talent, cybercrime, and justice. Thanks for watching.